What I've got for you today is the finals of the ESL Open Cup 222 for the North American server. And this series, it takes place between two of my favorite North Americans. First off, from the great state of South Korea, spotting right here in the top right-hand corner of El Cyane, we have none other than Dark. And his opponent in the opposite corner, from Denmark, we're looking at MaxPax's main Nexus. These two, of course, play in basically any tournament that they can play in. Although MaxPax usually doesn't play in the Korean Weekly and Dark doesn't usually play in the European Weekly, they still get to hang out on the North American server together. I'm assuming that Dark's current sleep schedule is a bit of a disaster because he just very recently became a dad. So you may as well play in the StarCraft event, I suppose. Now, usually these two, they do play in the events regardless, and it's always a lot of fun whenever they go up against each other because, well, the playstyles are certainly a little bit different. It's going to be a gold base first right here. MaxPax did go for a nice and early scout, and he will figure out that something is not entirely correct. Something is a little bit fishy. The lack of a hatch obviously does make it pretty obvious that it's very likely, at least, at the golden minerals, but you never know with Dark. It could be planted right about right here, right? It could be planted right about right here. There's a lot of different cheeses that you can go for, so MaxPax will probably want to have confirmation of this in just a little bit. Is he going to check out front at all? No. Okay. Maybe he saw the drone leave or something along those lines. I don't think so, but he seems very confident that this is a gold base first, and it turns out, well, his gamble is correct. Okay. You have to address this though, so this is a little bit different than, for example, in Dynasty, where your opponent takes a very quick gold base. You can take your own as well. For Protoss, it's not really an option to take this expansion super early. So you have to do something in order to, make sure that you can catch up economically. Because if you give Dark this base, he's gonna run away with an advantage. One really cool move that Zerg players have been doing over the last months, ever since this map has been around for, is to go for a bunch of queens, destroy the debris over here, and then start pushing creep tumors from this section in the direction of the opponent's third base. And that is a relatively short distance to travel. Turns out you don't even really need dropper lords, you don't need a Nidus worm, you can just walk the queens towards the other side of the map very early. And in combination with the golden minerals, obviously, that hits like a truck. So curious to see here what MaxPax decides to go for, because I don't think he can really just let this happen. But maybe he's feeling generous today. Obviously, MaxPax plays tons and tons of games, so he certainly has a good understanding of what he should be doing here. And he, so far, seems to be approaching this quite confidently. Little drone is stuck over here. Okay. It's just gonna be a bunch of links, by the way. Oh, is Dark really just going for a link flood? Is that the idea? He's just making a ton of Zerglings. He's actually not really made that many drones at all. He's only got 4 workers at this mineral line right now. Ooh, nice snipe. Already, we had a small group of links just running in. Those adepts have been very distracted. Another gateway comes up. Oracle is gonna pop in just a moment. Okay, do we have enough right here though? Because that is a lot of Zerglings, but at the same time, there's a second layer to the wall off, and now the Oracle is out. That Oracle can kill like 20 Zerglings all on its own pretty quickly. Dark immediately GG's out. Well, that was quick. Game number 2, we find ourselves on the map Dynasty. That was a coin flip and a half, and honestly a bit of a strange coin flip, because that works really well if the opponent goes for like a Twilight Council opener or something along those lines, right? Or maybe a Robo Facility opener. Now, obviously, there is a chance that MaxPax, seeing that gold base first, is not going to go Stargate. But MaxPax pretty much always goes for the Stargate as quickly as possible. Last time I actually saw MaxPax play on this map, he decided to take the base right over here. I don't think that's what we're going to be doing this time around, because I don't think it would be a great idea against Zerg, but Dark has decided to go for his in-base expansion as quickly as possible. A good old link flood. Maybe we can write that up to sleep deprivation though, right? I mean, I don't really know much about having kids, but I feel like it would be difficult to play StarCraft if you don't get to sleep your ordinary numbers, you know? If your ordinary hours are all out of the window. It must be kind of difficult to perform at the job. Maybe this is the one time where Dark kind of wishes he had a regular desk job instead, where he could just clock in and go home at the end of the day. But no, even without a whole lot of sleep, he's still forced to compete at the highest level. He could also take a couple weeks off though, but apparently we're not doing that. To be fair, you do get quite a bit of downtime, right? If you're playing these events, especially Dark, like the top tier pro gamers generally in the earlier rounds of online cups, they play quite cheesy. When they go up against players they don't recognize or players they consider significantly worse than themselves, they will just play quite cheesy, and if you lose, whatever. If you win, you can move on to the next round pretty quickly. So I wouldn't be surprised if for the first rounds of this particular weekly, Dark just cruised through it. He probably threw a bunch of cheeses, and maybe in game number 1 he thought he was still playing that style. Not gonna happen against MaxPax. MaxPax also in the meantime decided to take the golden minerals over here. And it is gonna be the good old Stargate opener. Dark sees this coming in from a mile away. Very quick Roach Warren here. It would be kind of fun if Sleep Deprived Dark is literally just him cheesing every game. That Roach Warren is several minutes early for this particular matchup. It would be early for any matchup, by the way, for what it's worth. Adept has arrived. Okay. One little Zergling over here tries to get something done. Maybe whenever Dark goes up against Hero, he's always sleep deprived. Because those two can definitely play some, yeah, let's just say stupid strategies. Yeah, I was gonna put it nicer, but yeah, no, I think most of the strategies that those two play against each other are pretty stupid. Very fun, but still stupid. Maybe Dark has been sleep deprived for years. Alright, Oracle coming up, Twilight Council in the back of this. MaxPax plays very stock standard in general, right? Like he doesn't really, especially like the first 5 minutes of a ZVP, he really plays quite predictably. Now he sees what's going on though, as there are a bunch of roaches and zerglings rushing through the center of the map. Okay, the adepts immediately get recalled. Luckily here for MaxPax, he did not make the third base yet, or maybe he did and he just cancelled it? No, I don't think so. Decides to go for a Void Ray on the back of this, together with another Gateway and a whole lot of static defense. So this is basically just Dark going back-to-back cheese. Now that Oracle is very strong, but yeah, exactly. It's not going to be part of the main battle. Instead, it will just use the little pulsar beam there to go after that one Roach. I wonder if that's the right call. Probes have been pulled away from their mineral line too. Void Rays are coming up, and obviously Void Rays will eventually kill everything here, because there's no Zerg unit that shoots up. Ooh, that's some cheeky control right over here, by the way, from Protoss. I think if you replug the wall, this is okay. The only problem is that the wall is still wide open. This is still okay, though. It's okay for MaxPax, I mean. Dark has not really killed enough yet. Although we're getting to that point now where it's starting to look a little bit more reasonable. Yeah. Okay. Such an awkward moment, right? We're like, I have the heart counter. But Zerg says, I just have too much stuff. Okay, so ultimately this is 21 probes going down, which is about, give or take, half of the economy right here that Max has had. Do we call this a considerable advantage though for Dark? Yeah, sort of. Sort of, I guess. Right now though, Zerg is gonna have to sit back. He doesn't really have great creep spread. He doesn't really have great economy. He doesn't have great upgrades. He doesn't really have great anything, really. So I don't mind this position so much here for MaxPax, even though MaxPax did just take a ton of damage. Void Race going after the OVs. Zerglings at the front try to run up here, but apparently not quite gonna happen. Okay. So. Attempt number 2 at the Twilight Council. Together with a fort this time around. I'm assuming it'll be good old Blink together with +1 ground. Void Race feeling ambitious. Don't lose them for free. Oracles, okay. They have a lot of hit points. Lovely play right here by MaxPax. Yeah, MaxPax is really strong defensively. I feel like Protoss players at the highest level have been stepping up quite a bit as far as playing defensively goes as of late. Especially Stats comes to mind, just microing his butt off. I wonder if Stats could have done a better job right here than MaxPax did. It's, by the way, not going to be Blink. It's going to be straight charge. So rather than just letting the Zerg player, sit back here, I think Dark is going to be under a lot of pressure here from a ton of Zealots in the relatively near future. We'll have to see how many gateways it's going to be. For now, it's just going to be 5. And obviously, MaxPax doesn't have a ton of eco. And with a third Nexus, I mean, he could turn it into an all-in if he really wants to. The third Nexus could be fake. But I don't think so. Keep in mind that with +1 on ground weapons, the Zealots do 1 shot. Or, I guess, 2 shot. They fire their hands 1 at a time, right? But rather than 3 attacks from their Zealot blades, it's 2 attacks to kill a Zergling. As long as the Zergling does not have any armor upgrades. Lots of drones actually going down. Ooh. We're going on to creep already? This is a curious timing. Because these Zealots have a massive power spike in about a half minute from now. We're just gonna walk... We're just gonna walk back home. I think MaxPax put his marching song on the speakers a little too early. The Imperial March started playing a bit too soon. He probably should have waited, you know? There we go. Now we can march. Yeah, exactly. You get what I'm trying to say. Now suddenly these Zealots hit a bit of a power spike. Although ground weapons level 1 is finishing up right, well, 3 seconds from now. I don't love this. I think it's fine. But it also feels like quite literally the worst engagement that Max could really be taking here. Now, obviously, this is the North American version of the weekly cup, right? So the way that this works is it determines the server that the games are being played on, and then also the time slot at which these games are going on. So I'm talking about Dark being sleep deprived, but maybe this is not the ideal time for Max to be playing either. He's just sending in the Zealots. Okay, well, Roaches now have their charge equivalent done. Glio Reconstitution is finished. The Void Rays have been microed well. 15 and 17 kills. Respectively. That's actually kind of nuts. One thing that MaxPax did achieve is kill quite a few of the drones. Yeah, I kind of felt like he was going for what seemed to be the killer move. But maybe he just wanted to keep the Zerg economy small. So he did trade out a lot of his Zealots there, but he did kill a ton of the workers. So ultimately, this is still about a solid 10 worker advantage right here for MaxPax. Dark has decided to try and play catch up here by taking a 4th base of his own. Thing is, he doesn't actually have a lot of eco. So this is kind of like a Roach Hydra all-in now in a way. Like, this needs to deal damage. One of the Void Rays, the one with 15 kills. That one ends up going down. And right now, with the mineral fields running out, we do have a bit of space created here that will allow those reinforcements for the Zerg to arrive a little bit quicker on the other side of the map. Guess it's also an opening, though, for those Zealots to move in. Okay. Yeah, this is actually a scary attack right here from Dark. Just a good old Roach Hydra push. We saw Rogue do this quite a bit, where Rogue is also just favoring pure Roach Hydra, which is a... Like, Roach Hydra was popular in, like, 2010 to, like, 2013 or so. That was the go-to unit composition for Zerg for many years, but it's not really been that popular ever since really the introduction of the Ravager, I guess. I don't really know. Like, there have been a lot of changes, obviously, to the units, so it's hard to pinpoint exactly what changed, but suddenly, I mean, it's not like these units really got nerfed a ton. Suddenly they show up, and the good old classic... Are we gonna go this deep, Dark? In the meantime, by the way, looks like there is indeed a Zealot here that made use of that little gap between the golden mineral fields. Dark is just YOLOing. Oh my god, I think he just did it. He's just YOLO'd so many units in, and he's destroying the third base. These units have distracted this army, I guess, for a while. Wow. That was actually a crazy sequence of events just now. Dark with an absolute killer instinct. Saw an opportunity, and he immediately grabbed it with both hands. The Roaches are gonna go around the right side once more, knowing very well that the rest of the Protoss army is distracted. That was actually so cool. Just Roach Hydra. So Dark hasn't really made any drones. So he did obviously set this base up. I think he may have made like 5 workers or so for it, but that's about it. He basically just made non-stop Roach Hydra. Now, I don't know about the +2 missile. I wouldn't even mind seeing a cancel of it, to be honest, because it's ages away from finishing. And at this point, I think the only thing that Dark really needs to do is shut down this army. So 150 minerals, 150 gas. The Roaches, by the way, that we're marching back home are once more going across. Oh, then the question becomes, does Dark have enough reinforcements coming in to shut down all of these Protoss units? Drones and Queens are going in for the surround. Immortals in the back, they're facing off against a bunch of these Hydras. Roaches in the meantime, though, have arrived back on the other side of the map. They're going after the mineral line as well as the Nexus. I think the reinforcements will do it. Dark indeed wins game number 2. Alrighty, Site Delta is going to be the 3rd game in this best of 5 series. Skip the first 2 minutes of the game, because both players played very normal. Even Dark. Yeah. We're 2 entire minutes into the game and he hasn't even planted down a Roach Warren yet. No 3rd hatch yet either, though, for what it's worth, although that one will be coming up momentarily. Stargate opener in the meantime from MaxPax. Site Delta is massive, it just makes sense. It's already the best go-to build for Protoss against Zerg, just period. On a map this large, it's also very good. It's funny though, because even on the small maps, like for example right now, Ghost River is really quite quick as far as the rush distance goes, but it's even quicker for air units, so it indirectly also helps out Stargate openers. So on large maps, you should be playing Stargate opener against Zerg. On small maps, you should probably be playing a Stargate opener against Zerg. And honestly, on medium-sized maps, you may as well. Oh, we're going Phoenix first. I don't like Phoenix first. Yeah. Well, he does see a whole lot of Zerglings waiting on the high ground. Phoenix first, unless it's going to be 1 Phoenix into an Oracle, could be decent. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, so mass Phoenixes is pretty terrible in 2024. I have not really seen anybody have any success with it. The main advantage of the Phoenix is that it's like a cheaper version of a Void Ray. You can kill the Overlord and deny scouting with it. That's the main advantage. Problem is that unlike a Void Ray, it can only shoot up. So taking this 3rd Nexus can be a little bit risky. Because if a bunch of Zerglings show themselves on the other side of the map right now, this Oracle will have to stay home. Now, as long as the Phoenix... Dark didn't even bother pulling the Overlords that far back. Anyway, I think Dark should definitely be going across the map right now with the Zerglings just to threaten the 3rd, because that would force the Oracle to stay at home. Since we only are going to have 1 Oracle for the time being, it would be a relatively straightforward defense. Yeah, the nice thing about a Stargate opener is that it keeps you safe while also being able to deal damage on the other side of the map. So Oracles are... I would probably call them the best Protoss unit. It's a little hard to say. Historically, I've always said the Warp Prism is the best Protoss unit. At least in Legacy of the Void, but... I think the Oracle is just so incredibly good if you control it well. Because it's very powerful at this stage in the game to keep your 3rd Nexus alive, but also to harass the Zerg. But then at the same time, stasis wards are incredibly important if you go for a Blink Stalker follow-up. The Revelation ability is super handy too. We see it being used all the time from basically minute 4 until like minute 24, right? Like until, well, usually the end of the game. I think lifting up the queen right there is cute now. Yeah, lifting up the queen allows the oracles to get an extra kill in. It does really overcomplicate the matchup quite a bit. Ooh, look at that Phoenix. Too cool to look at the queen while lifting her up. Well. Yeah. 5 drones for a Phoenix. I don't think Dark is going to be too upset about the whole thing. There it is, though. Blink goes down together with the +1. And in the meantime, we've got Roaches together with +1 missile. Is it going to be a Hydra then again? It would be kind of funny if Dark goes for Roach Hydra once more. That seems to be what Rogue is playing. And even though nobody else really seems to experiment with it too much, Roach Hydra really did seem quite good in, well, in the previous game, but also in the games that I've seen Rogue play. A little hard to really draw any conclusions from it. Usually, Zergs don't seem to draw any conclusions until Serral plays it. Like, is it good? I don't know, is it good? And then, you know, if Serral plays it, yeah. We have confirmation. Remember that brief period in time where Serral was playing 2-base Lair? He was going 2-base Lair in every game. And then, for about a month, everybody played 2-base Lair. And then Serral decided, nah, it's not that good. And he stopped playing 2-base Lair, and then everybody else stopped playing 2-base Lair too. It was weird. That was like a year ago. For some reason. Pro gamers are just copycats. To be fair, there's a lot of collective knowledge, right? It's very easy to try and invent the wheel yourself, but you may as well go ahead and copy from what other people have been doing lately. Because it's probably better than what you can come up with. Okay, so we've got an interesting little attack as there's a mass amount of roaches currently on the other side. Stasis ward over here is blocking some of the queens, but I was gonna say, these stalkers are gonna be real powerful. It's, by the way, Blink Stalker straight into Disruptors. So I think this is because of the roach numbers. MaxPax probably clicked on one of those roaches and realized that they have the +1 missile upgrade done. So rather than +1 melee, which is really quite common still, even with the Baneling nerf, he realizes that this is likely going to be mass roach, maybe into Roach Ravager, or roaches into Roach Hydra. And I guess the Disruptors are going to be really good against exactly that. Creep spread looking quite monstrous already though, considering the creep over here in the top lane of the map did get shut down. Okay, Infestation Pit together with a Hydra then. I think this will ultimately just lead towards Lurkers. Looks like it. +2, +1. Supply block as well for MaxPax. Ah, that's a little, okay. That's actually a pretty significant blunder at this point in the match. MaxPax is sitting at 69 probes though, as he hit a supply block, so that's kind of nice. But other than that, I don't really love hitting that supply block. Charge coming up. More Disruptors finally continue building. Stasis ward! Woo! Big one. Do you think it's fair that the Oracle is the best Protoss unit? I feel like for Terran and Zerg, it's a bit easier. Like, Queens are clearly the best Zerg unit. Right? I would say Marines are definitely the best Terran unit. Right? For Protoss, it's not quite as clear-cut. Maybe the Stalker is actually just the best Protoss unit. We have been seeing them so much. Disruptor coming in for the flank right now, trying to go after those roaches, but that was very ambitious. Oh, well, never mind. That was also a very ambitious one, by the way. A little bit sloppy. This is why Dark is going into a hive, though. It's for the Lurker play, but also for the Vipers. Vipers are really good against both Disruptors as well as Colossi. So usually if Zerg players at this level see either of the two, or they see the Robo Bay, they will instantly imagine Vipers. Dark right now, though, thinking about coming in from every angle. Shutting down the Disruptors before the Nova connects is quite strong. Beautiful targeting right here by the South Korean Zerg player, but he does need to be careful that he doesn't take another one of those big balls to the face. Unless he likes it, you know, he can do whatever he likes. Templar Archives coming up right now for the Protoss. So we are going to be making that transition into at least Archons. That was a really good engagement, though, for Dark. All jokes aside, that fight was about as good as it could have been for him, because that is one of those situations that could literally cost you the game. One more Nova like that, and I think it's game over. MaxPax starting to send, well, groups of Zealots around, but there's the Lurker Den coming up. Maybe the original, or the Lurker upgrades rather, coming up. Maybe the original intent was to go for a bunch of Vipers here too, but he's prioritizing Lurkers now. Disruptors, oh, Prism. Woo, close. Stasis Ward over here as well. Zealots in the meantime, all the way at the bottom of the map. Yeah, the light at the end of the tunnel though is close. As long as Dark makes a bunch of Lurkers here, he should be able to stabilize. When you're under a lot of pressure, it is kind of risky. Ooh, we're gonna go Nidus Worm first. Okay, interesting. So he's got a few Lurkers up here. And this is that scary moment where maybe as Protoss you've been pushing in every single one of the angles here and you feel like you've been winning the game, but you haven't quite won yet. There's that moment where suddenly there's a Nidus Worm inside of your main base and a half dozen Lurkers start protecting this ramp area right up here. And the game becomes pretty much impossible to play. This has been going well for MaxPax, but it is by no means a game-winning position yet. He's going into Skytles now. Storm is about halfway done. Extended Thermal Lance finishing up right now. I don't believe MaxPax is actually going to commit. I'm fairly sure he's just walking around on the creep, taking his Protoss army for a stroll. Yeah, you gotta be careful. I don't think he's really ready to fight. No, I don't love this. He does have a lot of upgrades finishing up, so he can go ahead and give it a shot if he wants to, while maybe transitioning into carriers or something like that. But it is a bit risky, because there's a lot of money caught up in structures and buildings that don't really do a whole lot yet for MaxPax. Okay. Well, ultimately he's going for that mass... Okay. Mass Immortal Archon, and now apparently Tempest Ball. With Storms, it is really good. It's just that, like, Lurkers are a dangerous unit. Like, in small numbers, Protoss walks all over that Lurker Ball. But when the Lurker numbers get out of hand, then suddenly the Protoss army gets destroyed. I guess that's maybe where the Tempest comes in. Mama ship coming up too. Okay. I'm a little surprised we haven't seen any Vipers yet. If the Disruptors and Colossi are not triggering them, then the Mama ship will. It has to, right? Zealot run-by is easy to clean up right now. MaxPax is looking for an angle. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can kind of fight this, but it's really difficult to make that call. Because if you are stepping into the spine range and you don't have enough stuff, the Lurkers will murder everything. Okay. Roach Hydra attack on the left side of the map. Roach Hydra Lurker push on the right side of the map. Looks like the Queens are trying their best to keep their opponent's units at bay, but this is a little risky for sure. Lurkers, okay. Do get some big storms. I think he's trying to back up to this base over at the 3 o'clock position on the map. Those storms are not quite as great. In the meantime, though, a lot of damage is being done here by Dark. Carriers are on the production tab, but they're ages away from finishing. MaxPax may very well have to pull the trigger here and decide to go back home. I think a recall might be in place, at least on the Tempest. Like, the Tempest should be able to shoot away at these Zerg units from a distance. I know it's difficult to micro, but Keeping the Tempest with the main army does not seem very optimal here. In the meantime, the roaches from the left side are starting to join up with the units from the right. Dark actually seems like such a tricky opponent to go up against. Ay. Suddenly the man's everywhere. Like, he doesn't even have the correct unit composition, right? As in, like, what most people consider to be the correct unit composition. But it's like, yo, what if I just attack you instead? This Roach Hydra Bull has actually been kind of insane now. I think maybe all the roaches at this point are gone. Yeah, Dark has been reduced as well to 69 workers. That's decent. Some might even call it nice, but... Oh, no. These are +3/+2 Hydras. They don't mess around. Losing a carrier to that, though, is a disaster. Okay, so... MaxPax has decided to put all of his eggs in one basket. Look at this all army hotkey here. We are leaving. Grab your bags. We're trying it one last time. Oh, Templar goes down for free. Second Templar goes down for free as well. Why in the world did Dark not make any Vipers this game? I don't understand. It feels like he's playing challenge mode right now. Like... The Viper is good against every unit other than the Stalkers here, you know? Like, it sounds like such a no-brainer. Abducting Immortals into the Lurkers, abducting the Carrier, the Mama Ship, anything. Now some more High Templars show up, and maybe that's the reason why Dark has decided to skip those Vipers for the time being, but he skipped them long before any Templar were ever on the battlefield. Either way, there's the cloaking activated. Don't underestimate this Protoss army. There is detection available in the form of that Overseer, so that's why it's being targeted down. Suddenly the detection disappears. Dark, in the meantime, though, is still on the other side of the map, too, with a... Well, I mean, I was going to call it a small squad of units, but this, with full upgrades, actually hits like a truck. Cloaking field, by the way, only available for a little while. It's about halfway done with its cooldown at this point in time. Lurker then never... Or, sorry, the... Nidus Worm never got used. In the meantime, those Hydras are absolutely ravaging everything. Okay, he's gonna recall. He's gonna recall. Mama Ship is still here, I guess for the offensive recall. So he's just using this army here to push back these Zerg units, maybe kill a couple of them. And I think the ultimate plan is to bring them back towards the Mama Ship. If he wants to, though, he's gonna have to bring them back fast, because again, his air units are not properly upgraded at all. And that's the mothership falling. It was a cool idea, but the execution was not quite optimal. In the meantime, Dark, he did run all of the drones from this base towards the top right-hand corner. And you're not going to win a base race against this. I don't think so. Problem is, MaxPax doesn't know where all of the structures from the Zerg are. And Dark knows exactly where everything from MaxPax is. Really feel like Dark is overcomplicating it, though, by not adding on a couple Vipers, but... There's no detection available at home right now for the Protoss, although he's bringing an Observer back. Fair enough. Hydra's coming in from the back, too, though. One Archon goes down. Second Archon goes down. Third Archon goes down, and now the Zealots will fall as well. Main army here for MaxPax, though, is still scary. It's actually bigger right now in total supply count than that of the Zerg. And this expansion in the top right really needs to start mining. The win condition in a game of StarCraft 2 is to kill all of your opponent's structures. It's not about army, it's all about structure. So if you manage to... Oh, we're using the Nidus now! We're using the Nidus now to reinforce this. Yeah, so Dark is exactly trying to execute on that idea. He knows that very likely all of the Protoss structures are out in the middle of the main and the natural expansion. So as long as he gets everything over here before he loses everything at home, he should be okay. If he can kill the Nexus, there will no longer be an opportunity for MaxPax to recall. Oh, good snipes right there by the Zerg. I think if he gets the Nexus, he's A-okay, but I don't think MaxPax is going to really be brave enough to do that anyways. He decides to go back home. Problem here for MaxPax is that he does not have a vision of that base in the top right. And this is a fully mining base. Here's the recall. Is there enough? Okay. Colossus immediately gets sniped. Carrier also in a bit of trouble. He can always bring in more reinforcements, though, as the drones... Oh my god, the drones pop out. There's not a lot of anti-air available, though, here for the Zerg. So the drones, together with the lurkers, are going to pop back into the worm right before it goes down. Everything's in the network. This is 2 Tempest, 3 Observers, 1 Carrier, and a Dream. I was going to say, we had a little bit more. Okay. You guys should not split up. I think MaxPax's heart will sink when he realizes that there's a fully mining base. He's seen drones move on over to this spot, and he checked for that location, which is the most likely location, I guess, where a base will be taken. One weird issue that MaxPax has now run into is that he does not have money to make interceptors. So interceptors are 15 minerals each, 1/5, and he's got 5 of them on this carrier over here. How much does the other one have? This one has 7. So it doesn't very frequently come into play, but Dark can actually make these Hydras work very effectively by just A-moving them. You can easily kill all of the interceptors, at which point, I mean, a carrier without interceptors is nothing, you know? It's just a shell. Tempest can still be microed, I guess. You know, it'd be nice against the Tempest. Okay, I'm gonna shut up about Vipers, but seriously though. Lurkers going into the main base. We do have loads of observers around the map, but none of them are currently able to see these lurkers. So that's the nexus going down. Dark is still mining with 33 workers, and he's just making a ton of spores. Yeah, so there's 1 hero Tempest. 1 hero Tempest that's been tasked with cleaning up this entire base. It's got a lot of range, but I think, yeah, ultimately you can just move the spores. GG is cold. Dark wins game number 3. So, I was fast forwarding through the first 2 minutes of this game. And then I realized that Dark was not gonna take his 3rd base as his first expansion when it got blocked by MaxPax. Instead, that drone has decided to go across. So, he still took the natural here. Oh, he's gonna go for the classic natural into natural build. Right. You take your own natural first, and then, of course, you take your opponent's natural. Naturally the best choice. Now, usually these are the type of builds that look really scary, but they're just to be annoying to the Protoss player, right? StarCraft 2 players, in general, try to be as annoying as possible. That is, the average pro gamer tries to be a very annoying man. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Not every single one of them. Showtime, for example, is pretty chill. Stats usually is pretty chill. I would say MaxPax is also pretty chill. Sarah also won't really throw these things across the map very frequently, so it's more like an acquired taste, but the vast majority of guys out there just try to be annoying. I especially try to be very annoying. Have you listened to my accent? Doesn't get much more annoying than that. Anyways, Dark's gonna cancel this hatchery, and at minimal cost, he has successfully confused his opponent. Now, he should cancel the hatch. I was gonna say, cutting it a little close there, especially since we're on the NA server, but okay. Probius got a hit in. Kill stolen, I guess, by the Adept, but we'll allow it. Probius was the support. Main issue is that Protoss is very build order dependent, so Protoss really needs to play a pretty rigid style most of the time. And obviously, if your base gets stolen, then suddenly the game becomes a little bit more complex and you have to play more flexibly. Spinecrawler? Really? It's interesting to me that they decided to prioritize a Spinecrawler over 2 additional queens. I mean, it works, don't get me wrong. But it does feel a little shaky. Okay. Lynx are going to get their little wings in just a moment. Oh, he's cutting them off. Apparently you don't need link speed. What? That's so funny. He just committed before link speed is done. Dark has got a killer instinct. It's actually insane. Like most Zergs, I want to say pretty much all Zergs there, would wait You're seconds away from link speed. Why risk it? But I think Dark looked at that and is like, wait a second. You are way overextended. I can just cut you off the retreat path, at which point the Spine and the Queen will deal so much damage. Oracle coming in as well. Queen's properly positioned for that. Despite the lack of a Spore Crawler. I think that was pretty much perfect. Losing a drone is okay, especially if you can skip your spores for that long. Dark's very good at those sorts of things, though. He's got that killer instinct, and I also noticed that whenever he has a situation where he falls behind, he immediately puts himself past that. I think most StarCraft players out there, including pro gamers, they kind of sit there criticizing themselves for like half a minute before they finally think, oh yeah, by the way, we're still playing this game. Dark seems to need about half a second to accept the current situation and come up with the next line of attack. He's already shown that in this particular series too, falling behind but immediately switching to step B. And just going, yeah, for the next plan. Lair coming up. Reasonable time here. Twilight Council together with a Forge right now for MaxPax. You know what? Even though MaxPax has got a good understanding of what he should be doing when his hatchery gets blocked, his default is definitely a predictable playstyle. He should be targeting drones here. Okay, instead we're targeting drones up here, but... So maybe by going for the proxy hatch, Dark is forcing MaxPax into the more common build orders, right? Just good old Blink Stalkers. Yeah, there it is. Good old Blink Stalkers, no glaive, like nothing too cheesy. Quite a few Zerg players have been facing Dark Templar builds or Disruptor drops or whatever. But this is forcing MaxPax, who's got a good answer to everything that Zerg can throw at him. But this is forcing MaxPax, I think, into a very predictable style. Okay. Dark mixing it up, by the way. This is not quite the same build, although to MaxPax it looks essentially identical. He's going into, yeah, he's going into Ling Bane. So rather than Roaches with +1 missile, he's going into Lings with +1 melee. And he'll probably have some Ravagers and Roaches for support, but 6 Overlords coming up, my god. He did not see the Baneling Nest. Yeah, Dark can play such a clean game, and then he makes 6 Overlords. Like... oh, it's so silly sometimes. 6 Overlords is just way too much. It's, I would be okay with 2 Overlords. Maybe 3. I would call 3 Overlords alright as well. But 6? That just slows you down. And here comes MaxPax. Now keep in mind that in the previous games, whenever we've seen Blink Stalkers, they've been going up against +1 Roaches, right? This is going to be upgraded Zerglings instead. Upgraded Zerglings hit much harder against Stalkers. It's a little bit less popular ever since the Baneling got nerfed. Although it's still popular enough. But it does force the Protoss to transition a little bit. Dark right now with a big supply lead though. Immediately grabs that base as well on the left side here of Oceanborn. MaxPax has decided to go for the base at the 6 o'clock position. Fair enough. Got ourselves the Storm upgrade researching right now here for MaxPax, which I do quite like actually. Transition towards Storm is quite quick. But he is going to need a little bit of bulk to his army, because pure Stalker Storm against Lingbane Roach technically works, but you're really dependent on where your storms are going to land. So, Baneling speed is finishing up right now. Banelings with +2 melee no longer one-shot probes. So that is one of the major changes. Banelings also no longer get their +5 HP from the Centrifugal Hooks upgrade. That's one of the reasons why that mass Baneling style has fallen off quite a bit over the last, well, 6 months or so. Okay. Dark's still making 34 Banelings. Now, he is going to attack his opponent for certain with that, because I don't think he can just make all of this and then not attack. But he will be going up against Psionic Storm. There are 6 Templar, And they should all have at least one storm available. Yeah, he doesn't really want to push it. So, like I was trying to say, he needs some bulk to his army. Right now, it's basically 2 Archons and 10 Stalkers and 2 Stormy Boys against all of this Zerg. Dark only at 71 drones, though. Usually, Ling Bane gets played off of like 80 plus. So maybe that's why MaxPax is a little bit confused as well by the timing of this particular attack, as he does decide to commit. Great first storm. What about the second one? Can we see one at least? Okay, we do see one. Archon does get morphed in. 4th Nexus, already down. Well, it's not killed yet, but the entire mineral line is down and the base is not recoverable. Let me just emphasize that much like the the metabolic boost surround, Dark's doing all of this as well, right before +2 melee finishes. He must have smelled blood somewhere and basically a piranha, man. He's the piranha Zerg. Don't know if he needs another nickname, but I'm suggesting it. Look at the swarm. Oh my god. He is ready to just blow up all of the things, and this is unfortunately for MaxPax right before a whole host of upgrades of his is done. GG is cold. And it's Dark, who wins the ESL Open Cup 222 for the North American server.